He is Representative Fue Lee. He's kind enough to join us today to talk about the current session he is in, as well as his re-election campaign coming up here in November. Representative, thank you very much. I appreciate the time today.
Thanks for having me, Matt.
My absolute pleasure. You reminded me, we talked, I think it was a while back that we actually chatted. You were a Democrat the day before. You've definitely made a predominant name for yourself within the Minnesota House there. A lot of people look up to you and point to you for some of the bills you've been putting forward, some of the ideas that you're putting out there. Definitely a nice breath of fresh air for the DFL. Nicely done.
Thank you for that. It takes a lot of hard work and, support from listeners like you have on the show to get to where I'm at today.
I'm going to start off with something that really just, I know if it makes me upset, and I live in Hopkins. If it makes me upset, I know it's going to make you upset. Let's talk a little bit, first of all. Your district basically runs the river to the Memorial Parkway over there from Broadway north and the North Minneapolis area. You have basically become enemy number one of the state because of Republicans. They have no problem in throwing specifically not only the city of Minneapolis, but your district specifically under the bus to basically vilify anything to do with the cities, anything to do with ethnicity, anything to do with equality. It's got to be infuriating to constantly have Republicans, especially Republicans who have never spent a single moment in your district, use your district to vilify their perceived enemies.
It is tough to, be the number one target for a lot of my colleagues on the other side of the aisle, especially now, with some of the issues that we're seeing around gun violence, public safety. They're saying that, what's happening in Minneapolis is going to happen statewide, and we know that that's not true, where a lot of these issues that we are seeing in the city of Minneapolis is happening, nationally too.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I pointed out over the holidays, I said, these guys like to vilify Minneapolis, and there are problems in Minneapolis. We're not going to candy coat it, but at the same time, you take a look at, driving deaths, outstate Minnesota, dramatically higher this last year. Drunken driving deaths, dramatically higher. The meth crisis in rural America. They're ignoring the real problems in their own districts to create a mythical boogeyman that they can basically vilify by going after your district. And that's the part. I mean, it's not only vilifying you and your district, it's completely ignoring their own problems within their own districts.
Exactly. They're just doing this to pander to, the far right so that they could actually just try to scare people and, really getting to the fears of people. And I don't think that that's right. As elected officials, for us, we really need to see what can we do to help out Minnesotans and not, to harp on the fears that people have because of what, it's out there with the media and whatnot.
Since we are pretty close to the beginning of the year, let's talk about last year. What are some of the things that you felt worked well for you in the House last year?
Last year, I'm glad that we had a lot of our people of color members as chairs of the different committees in the House. And so we really looked at, some of the legislation and some of the budgets that we passed through a race equity lens. How do we ensure that all Minnesotans are going to benefit from our budgets? And I think that, from public safety to education, we made significant investment with our state dollars, and that's what I'm looking forward to this upcoming year. How could we double down on what we were able to achieve for racial equity in the state of Minnesota?
We have clearly problems with racial equity. We need to address these issues. It is also difficult as the House, which has put forward some great legislation, you run up against the Senate as well. That they're, as they said, they're driving a narrative. And even though you have the governor on your side trying to help you out, you got two of the three working together. The Senate still takes pride in trying to derail issues like that.
You are right. And, what the Senate Republicans want to prioritize this year is tax cut for the rich. And in order for them to get any kind of proposal and carry through on, what they're promising for their big donors, they need to work with us in the House and also the administration. And we have seen, at least with capital investment and what I have jurisdiction over, the governor is doubling down on racial equity, and that's what we're going to do, too, as we move along in the process. And, the Senate GOP will have to work with us in order to get what they would want to prioritize this upcoming legislative session.
You are looking at this upcoming year here before we get into the election. What are some of your priorities as far as bills, not only for the state of Minnesota, because obviously you are in many different committees. You chair the Capital Investment Committee, and as well as others. You're a member of others. Let's talk about some of the statewide issues, but also let's talk about some things you want to champion for 59A specifically.
For my district in North Minneapolis, having represented the riverfront, I think that we need to do more around some of the environmental concerns that we are seeing with regards to the air that we're breathing in North Minneapolis and the water quality. We need to make sure that, big corporations, those that are existing right now in North Minneapolis, or those that are proposing to come in, that they actually, really let the state know how they are, impacting our air and water so that we can make sure that our public health agencies are aware of what's going on and we protect public health over corporate interests.
One of the things I find interesting about that issue is you're in a part of the metro which has got, some older buildings, some older industrial areas, which, because of what was going on back when those businesses were there, they're not the most environmentally safe zones. Obviously, you've got an important area in a great location that you can easily upgrade, give someone a fantastic location just north of the downtown, right on the river there. But there's a lot of people that won't go in and develop some of these properties because of the economic cleanup elements of it, that the feeling is that if it's going to cost me that much to clean it up, I'll just go find someplace else to do it. I mean, are we working on some sort of incentives? I mean, once again, I'm talking about people that are buying established lots and stuff like that, stuff that they themselves did not pollute. Are we working on some avenues here to help basically clean up some of these sites?
Right now, that hasn't really been something that we've been looking at. But I would say this, you are right that we have some pretty good land up by my area, just north of downtown. And, that's what we were able to achieve, from when I first had a conversation with you in 2018 until 2020. We got some significant dollars coming in from the state to redevelop the Upper Harbor Terminal area. That's going to bring in a performance art venue and, some private space so that, residents on the north side, if they want to participate in economic development, that they have the ability to do so. And I'm starting to see that, if the state is willing to invest in areas like mine, economic development is going to follow.
Well, and it can't help but follow. It's such a great location. I mean, it really is a gem. One of the things I love about your district is the amount of public art that's out there. I don't know who's behind all the great art, whether it's just the paintings on side of buildings, some of the art pieces that are on display. It is really magnificent. Someone's done a fantastic job in your district because it's one of the best ones for art I've ever seen.
It is, and I think that's just prioritizing and bringing in residents and showing residents those artists or young families that we are welcoming them into our area, so that they could actually, start and develop a life there. And, that's going to be what it takes, for us to address some of the issues that we're seeing with regards to, public safety and gun violence. We have to come together as a city and as a state to show that, we care about each other and that we're going to do what we can to make North Minneapolis a place where everyone will come in and will like to come in and live.
When you talk about the violence, one of the things that's interesting, and I saw the story, this is not in your district, but down by Williams and Uptown, they had the issue down there. And the first thing I said when I saw that is, okay, I've been to Uptown a lot of times. There used to be a lot of police down there. No one would have ever thought of doing something so brazen before. And it just feels like there's a detachment by the Minneapolis police to the policing element of it. I'm not saying that there aren't a lot of people out there working hard. I'm not saying there aren't a lot of great cops. There are. But there just definitely seems that ever since George Floyd, there seems to be this mentality that, at least the perception I get, is that unless, we're so upset about how things ended with Chauvin and the rest of this, that, it basically, we're not going to do the policing like we used to do. And henceforth, it sends a signal to the criminal element that there is opportunity there. Have you talked about that? I mean, my perception, I know, is a perception, but at the same time, we do have those issues out there, and it does feel like I hear a lot of people talk about, I've called the police, they said they'll be there in 4 hours. I mean, that's not exactly a responsive police department.
I don't think so, too. And, for me personally, living on the north side, I've experienced that myself. Over this, past fall, the last few months, there's been a few gun violence incidents just around the house or outside my my bedroom window where we call the cops, and maybe 30 an hour they'll come by, and I think that that's not the right way to go. And for me, at the state, really pushing for a comprehensive approach to public safety. I know that in talking with my neighbors, I think trauma is real, and we need to address the trauma that's associated with gun violence, whether you're a victim, a perpetrator, or just a neighbor that happens to live in an area that has a lot gun violence, so that we could actually provide the mental health and the resources for community members to address what's going on in their daily lives, so that they could at least try to be as productive as they can without having to be fearful of gun violence.
And well, let's be honest, the Republican mentality of guns everywhere in a militarized police force, that's not working.
I agree with you on that too, and as you may have saw today, the Minnesota House DFL caucus just released our public safety proposal, where we're actually prioritizing other forms of public safety, actually investing in the community groups who are out on the streets right now at this very moment, who are making sure that young people, when they leave the schools, that they can actually go home and not have to be fearful about their lives.
I will say just one last quick thing I note about the committees you're serving on. You're on the redistricting committee, correct?
I do serve on the redistricting, yes.
Can we laugh about the Republicans' plan for redistricting? The Senate Republicans, because I don't know what pipe dream they were living in, but that ain't going to fly in Minnesota, what they wanted to do.
Yeah, I know. With what they're trying to do, I think they're just politicizing the process and not really working with us, as you saw for us in the House. Over this past summer and fall, we held a series of listening engagement to really hear what Minnesotans think about with regards to redistricting. And when we were going through the process, actually taking some of that feedback and amending our maps to make sure that we captured the voices of every Minnesotan from all across the state.
And just if you look at where the population growths are, I mean, this is the thing that really chafes the Republicans. There's just going to be natural district pickups for the Democrats. The DFL is going to pick up House seats. It's going to pick up Senate seats just because of the population growth. And this mentality that they're going to go in with with a microscope and carve out building by building to try to diffuse the power of the metro area and try to preserve five U.S. House seats in the rest of the state for them. It just is ludicrous. And once again, it's not, my guess is it's not even coming from the state. I'm guessing it's someone nationally that's giving them guidance on this. But the reality is it's not looking out for what's best for Minnesotans. It's only looking out what's best for the Minnesota Republican Party.
Right. It is tough. Like I said, for us in the House, we had an open and transparent process. I know that, we tried to engage with the Senate Republicans majority and how they went about, their process. And we didn't really get any contact with them until very late, when they were just exchanging press conferences and press releases. And so at least I know that, for us in the House, we did our due diligence to hear and really make sure that our maps reflect, the voices that we heard when we went through our process. And I'm grateful for that. And we look forward to the work that we have from now until the 15th to see if we could get a map done.
We can always hope the Republican Party decides to work with us, but hey, this is me not holding my breath. We do, regardless of these maps, we do have an election coming up here this fall. How are you feeling about the upcoming election cycle?
I'm very hopeful right now. With the pandemic, it's going to be tough, but I feel like if everyone is able to, just maintain focus on with the work ahead and, bring people out into the precinct caucuses. I know that, many of us in the party and throughout the state are going to have contactless, precinct caucus. We just need to make sure that people who want to be involved can be involved, so that once we get closer to the primary season and the general election season, that folks are fully informed about our candidates and actually get out to vote for our statewide candidates too, not just us in the state legislature. Well,
and this is the point where I tell everyone, if you want to help out Representative Lee, by all means, here you go. It's fuelee.org, FUELEE.org, correct? That's still your website?
That is still my correct website.
Yeah, FUELEE.org. That's Representative Fue Lee. Go over there, volunteer, donate, help him hold on to 59A for the DFL. As well, and let's be honest, I don't think the Republicans are necessarily even going to run this against you in that district. But I mean, obviously, it gives us the vibrant voice the DFL has always represented, and two, let's face it, I mean, it's as much as outstate Republicans like to scream, you got to make sure you have enough rural people in the negotiation sessions. We need to have metro people in there too, and you are bringing a perspective that has to be presented because there's just too many people that want to ignore your district and ignore the city of Minneapolis when they write these bills. And thank God you're there because your voice is heard and it's preventing catastrophe for the city, frankly. So I'm grateful that you're there, Representative.
Well, thank you for having me, and you are right. We need to make sure that the legislature is reflective of the residents of the entire state of Minnesota, and having represent this area for the last 6 years, we are one of the most demographically diverse districts in the state, and I believe, after redistricting, we will remain so, and so it is important for your listeners to come out there, not just to help donate, but, campaign and make sure that we can actually help out our colleagues and other candidates throughout the state, too. We're not just focusing on turning out voters in North Minneapolis for our statewide candidates. We are also making sure that we can get out there to help out other House DFL candidates so that we can maintain the majority and continue the work that we are to make Minnesota a more progressive state.
Representative, we need to set up a bus where you and I will take a bunch of volunteers out to some of these other districts. The Fue Lee bus will take it on out, go out to these districts and help these people in these other communities, because not only obviously we can help more DFLers win, but also then it basically allows you to present the issues of your district to everyone else. I think that's a fantastic idea.
I think so too. I'm on board. Maybe we can do it together, or find other members who are willing to jump onto this idea and just make it happen. I
like that. I'll be in touch with you guys there. Once again, Representative Fue Lee. It's FUELEE.org. Go to his website, sign up, volunteer, donate if you can, and let's make sure that we continue to have his fantastic leadership in the Minnesota House for as many years as we possibly can. Representative, an absolute privilege. Thank you very much. I appreciate the time today.
Thank you, Matt.
Take care. Democrat of the Day, Representative Lee. We'll take a break. Come on back. It's the Matt McNeil Show right here on AM 950.